And we're live. Good day, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome aboard. This is your Sensei Al Bob saying welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And just getting ready for, the big bang, the big squish, the reset. I wrote a paper about this in 2004, I think, about the big reset. And I said that, things were already toast and the powers that be would have to, do something exotic, And so we got an exotic virus. Yeah.
Good morning.
And
How are you guys?
Hungry. How are you?
Good.
You don't have enough Wi-Fi here, do you?
We do have Wi-Fi. I can get the password for you if I don't remember it, but
yep. So hey, there's our brother AI, always the first on board.
okay, thank you. I went back there and just
So
grabbed
I just love the Dollar Tree because
it.
it gives you a choice. Everything is always $1. So we ready to give peace a chance? Yeah. Well, I've been on the bopp this week. I was all over between here and there. I went back to Roanoke to get my eyes operated on and my feet worked on. And
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. That big, what did she show you last time?
so and it was the same as it ever was. Nothing changes much. Yep.
$7 each.
Okay. Oh, the hats? Oh, good girl. Thanks.
That is bad.
Yep. Oh yeah. I thought they were free. So
I had to stop there when you was here yesterday. I was like,
So the day before.
the girl that was here when
this
you were
pandemic is
Yeah.
yeah, it was the sprinklers I'd done.
same as it ever was.
Whatever you guys want.
But I've been, self distancing. When I was on the bopp, I was self distancing. But I talked to the usual suspects in Roanoke, and they're basically going through the same moves. Everyone's going through the same moves. Oh, it's all different now. It's the pandemic. Black lives me. Oh, say his name. No, it's like nothing's changed. Except everyone's you're loading up, and that's going to happen. The powers that shouldn't be, definitely want a race war. And there is, we're all, look at me. I'm a African American that's melanin challenged. But, it's all how you deal with stuff, how you decide what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, So, let's see.
I'll tell you what, whichever one you think is best.
It seems to work. So I got a new pair of glasses. I don't have to wear 3 pairs to read it, but you put it in, capitals. I can read it better. But this is Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your griot, your storyteller. And remember, don't believe a word I say. Everything about this show is just about entertainment. It's Hollywood. You know what Hollywood is? Holly is the branch, the wood, that the old druids used to make magic wands out of. So that's Hollywood. And it's all, and there's a great video. True Stream Media. Anyway, it's this couple that makes really good videos, and this one's called The Mind of Men. It's all about how we've been wired, since the Tavistock Institute, since Plato, since you name it. And Truly Graceful is another good channel, and another great channel is dark journalism, and there's a lot of great stuff on. There's always Richie Bombasi from Boston, and that boy is he's a true patriot, just like this guy was. And it's hard for me to go nostalgic, because in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, 80s, 90s, things always sucked. There isn't, making great America great again. It never was. Now for a certain group of people, yeah, they were doing pretty good, but overall, not really. So, what do you guys want to talk about? Ask, good time to ask Sensei a question, Let's see. What can I say? And there's nothing on the screen.
I don't. Okay. Here, I found it. I've still got to get orange juice.
The Joe Rogan Experience. If anybody sounded the alarm that all this madness was gonna come to fruition in the real world, it's you, sir. You were the guy. Like, you were the one who was saying this is what's happening at Evergreen. And if you don't know, go Google it. Brett Weinstein, Evergreen. And now it spills out to the real world.
Just like I said it was gonna.
You did.
I did. I said it in several different places, and pretty clearly, it could have been a tiny bit more precision, but it was highly accurate.
You were highly accurate and often maligned and mocked.
Yep.
People didn't think it was a big deal. They think you're much ado about nothing. You're making a big deal about some kids that are voicing their opinions on things. But what you recognized early on was that there was an authoritarian aspect of it, a forced compliance aspect of it that's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's all about force, and I've started to get calls in the last week or two.
Don't worry, I'm gonna get it.
Mocked me and others of you for making too much of what appeared to be college kids going wild on college campuses. Some of them have started to call and say, I got it wrong. What do we do now? And actually, I appreciate those calls and those contacts, because really that is the question.
Yeah, what do you do now to pull it back?
Yeah.
Get the genie back at the bottom.
Get the genie back to the bottom.
For the first time, I'm not in a position to comment on how to characterize a particular incident, but as a general matter, I can tell you that one, it is appropriate and necessary for nations to use force in appropriate circumstances to defend themselves against terrorist threats. Another principle is equally true, and that is when using military force, all nations must comply with the law or conflict to ensure that force is only directed at actual combatants, actual threats, and not at innocent civilians. How those two related principles apply in a given case, I can't answer that.
You can't answer that one.
On the use of force and
Yeah, we just keep killing innocent people.
conflict has been clear for decades. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Chair Nestor. So, the State Department issued its determination about Hong Kong pursuant to the Hong Kong Policy Act and Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. And the determination was that Hong Kong was not sufficiently autonomous to enjoy differential treatment with respect to how the State Department treats.
It's all garbage.
Hello, everyone.
Look at this
I'm
thing.
coming directly to you for asking a quick favor.
Yeah, quick.
You add your name today to join
I'm
our
good,
team.
girl.
I've said from the outset of this election that we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. Who we are, what we believe, who we want to be, it's all at stake. And that's truer today than ever. But the only way
Not
to
listening,
defeat
I just
Donald
forgot to bring
Trump
you this.
and
Okay,
move
wait.
forward is by doing it together. So please, join us. You're not just wanted, you're needed.
Oh, not just wanted, but needed. Isn't that sweet? So, it's so nice.
Yeah, and he's enjoying it. And that was a manifestation, a literal manifestation of playing to the base. As he went through the names of COVID-19 and coronavirus, you could hear the crowd waiting for that racist term that he used. It was almost like at the old rallies when they do the lock her up chant. They were waiting to say it. They were there to hear the hit song, to hear one of his lines. And he delivered it, and he delivered it twice. And it's ugly and it's racist. And imagine being an Asian American in this country and hearing your president say that. We heard that side of it, the ugly racist side. We heard the ignorant side, that he didn't know what the 19 stood for. And then we heard the truly, as John Meacham said on this show yesterday morning, perhaps the most damaging side, which is that he's laying this predicate already that the election is rigged. And why is he doing that? Because we have polls that show him down 14 points, that show him getting crushed among women, suburban women, the people he needs to win over to be reelected. He's laying the groundwork to look back, Jonathan Lemire, after Election Day, if he does lose, and say, this election is rigged. We should not go quietly. Jonathan, you were on that trip yesterday, all day. What was it like first to be, we'll talk about the border in a moment, but what was it like to be around him when he was making that speech?
Well, Willie, what we saw, the campaign got out of yesterday, is they wanted a burst of enthusiasm. What they're seeing also is the president is increasingly talking to a smaller and smaller portion of the electorate that face, and even just the diehards, truly hardcore portion of that base.
I actually don't think we're going to have an election. I think we're going to
John
have.
Stewart, thank you so much for coming on the program. Irresistible is genuinely an irresistible film. We'll talk about it in a second. I just want to get your response very quickly to something that happened today, which is that John Bolton, another man who used to work for Donald Trump, got fired or resigned, we never know quite which, has now written a book about Donald Trump dishing the dirt. Does anything surprise you about this?
Completely. I had always thought Donald Trump was an incredibly stable and powerful rudder in these turbulent times. And to read differently was just, well, I can't tell you how shocked I was. I've always found his leadership to be calming and steady and very reasonable and not chaotic or crazy in any way. So to read that he may have been doing these things behind the scenes, well, you can imagine in America today,
Yeah,
people
John, just.
are gobsmacked.
Oh, so what's your new project there, G? What's your new project?
Groceries.
Yes. Well, you are running a restaurant.
Lots of them.
Yeah, baby. So, how about taking my bill?
What?
How about letting me pay you?
Yeah, give me one thing.
Okay. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Be right back. My all three of you. Say something. Talk amongst yourselves. Great. You know, when that is your economic plan, yeah, you don't have an economic plan. I know. Tip jar. It's not the end down there. Well, I didn't win the lottery. You'd be hearing me scream. Ay, ay, ay. But I supported my neighborhood businessman. This is what we all should do. Because along with the that's right. Patience, humility, grace. Yep. Yep. That's the only thing that can get us through. Patience, humility, and grace. If I would have children, I'd name them that. But they are probably those three things, patience, humility, and grace, are the best attribute human beings can have. And so how can we manifest it? So, I was in Roanoke talking to the usual suspects. And the one who, seemed the most able to manifest a positive outcome was a police captain, right? Who's had 30 years on the street and was Roanoke's #1 community policing guy. And he basically, I played him the Chris Hedges bang, and where is it? Here we go. This one. I mean, if Biden gets in,
The
forget
ruling
about it.
elite has lost all legitimacy and their monopoly on violence. So go ahead and explain that a little bit more.
Well, because that
And the touchscreen, it gets carried away sometimes. Well, Chris Hedges, was.
Explain that a little bit more.
well, because that defines.
Okay, let's get to your article. So this is great read. It's in Common Dreams right now. It's got the treason of the ruling class. And the subheading is, they have destroyed our capitalist democracy and replaced it with a mafia state. The ruling class no longer has legitimacy. They have destroyed our capitalist democracy and replaced it with a mafia state. What the Roman philosopher Cicero called a commonwealth, a res publica, a public thing, or the property of a people, has been transformed into an instrument of naked pillage and repression on
Naked
behalf
pillage and
of
oppression.
a global corporate oligarchy. We are
Yes.
serfs ruled by obscenely rich, omnipotent masters who loot the U.S. Treasury, pay little or no taxes,
Breakaway
and burden the
civilization.
judiciary, the media, and the legislative branches of government to strip us of civil liberties and give them the freedom to commit financial fraud and theft, the loss of control over systems of rulership, the misuse of all democratic institutions, the electoral process and laws to funnel money upwards into a handful of oligarchs while stripping us of power ominously means that the ruling elites can no longer claim the right to have a monopoly on violence. Violence employed by police and security agencies such as the FBI, which have evolved into occupying forces to protect the exclusive interests of a tiny ruling criminal class, exposes the fiction of the rule of law and the treason of the ruling class.
Jimmy Dore
In order
doing
for
a
nonviolence
TV
to
show in
work,
his
your
mother's
opponent
basement.
must have a conscience, Stokely Carmichael warned. And if your opponent is bereft of a conscience, then state violence is inevitably met with counter-violence. Tyranny takes the place of reform. The danger of widespread sectarian violence in America is now very real. How long can you expect people to watch their children go hungry? How long can you expect people to watch their loved ones suffer and die because they can't get medical care? How long can you expect people to be abused by lawless police and a court system designed to railroad the poor into jails and prisons? How long can you watch the rich profit from your misery? I would prefer that our revolution eschew the poison of violence, which I know too intimately from my 2 decades as a war correspondent, but I also know that when everything around you conspires to crush you, the only way left to affirm yourself is to destroy not only the structures and institutions that have oppressed you, but often yourself. Yep. Okay, so let's stop there. Let's talk about that. So
Yeah, really.
you
Let's
said
talk
the
about
ruling
that.
elite has lost all legitimacy and their monopoly on violence. So go ahead and explain that a little bit more.
Well, because that defines government in its modern term, and that is that it has the monopoly on violence. It alone has the right to use violence, but it can only essentially claim that right if the government represents the consent.
Oops, hit the button. Well, you get the idea. So I played that for the police captain and for other folks, the usual suspects, Black Lives Matter folk, different progressive politicians, and they couldn't stand listening to Chris Hedges. Whereas the policeman listened to the whole thing and said, "Yep, that's what's going on. That's who I work for. That's what this is all about." And then he turns to me and goes, "So Al, how are you going to fix it?" Yeah, Morgan, good to see you, bud. And I said, "I'm wearing these glasses, because until we can talk about a alternative aesthetic, and amongst all these folks, the only person who really listened and had a real salient conversation with me was the police captain. All the other quote unquote liberal progressives just muddled and fuddled and repeated the company line. And so, I mean, they are, serfs of the corporate structure. They can't think outside the box. They have to try to, see what it is. So, there's four of you there. How would you think outside the box? I mean, because the next thing coming is alien invasion, and I would say it's going to happen sometime, between the 4th and 18th of July, just like the movie, uh, you know. So, what do you think? Hmm? I like these. I like these the best. You know, they're kind of like an extension of my antennae. Hmm. Now, patience, humility, grace. Those, I would say, are the flags, the garlands of this alternative aesthetic. Without patience, humility, and grace, it's never going to happen. And I'm writing on my three novels, same as it ever was. Don't believe a word I say. Number one. Number two, um, legacy, and number three, lineage. So let's see, Morgan. I've been expecting something weird in 2030 for 2 years. 2020. Alien, yes. First contact, and basically they'll land on the front lawn of the White House, and Trump will shoot the first guy out the door and start a galactic war. Depends on what happens for August. I mean, there's going to be some. I mean, there's going to be another up spike, and when it's happening, it's really the up spike of the first spike, and so. Um, and the real deal about Black Lives Matter is, like in Chicago, um, something on the order of 300 people was shot. Um, black on black, right? Now that's a corporate dynamic, that people don't talk about. It's not just the police, the whopping SS of the rich, and the police have always been that because from the beginning, police were their bones come from Indian fighters and slave, um, you know, guys who would go and get runaway slaves, and that's our police force. You go watch the movie Gangs of New York, and the Irish police is ran by Tammany, and Tammany wasn't even elected; it was just a gang. Thus, the name of the movie, Gangs of New York, right? We're
Oh yeah.
Hey there, Fish. Good to see you. The Space Force, yes, exactly. So, and we've had a breakaway civilization since the 1890s. I mean, there's a group of German scientists came to the United States to Palamondo in the 1820s and perfected, lighter than air, not gas, but more heat, but gravel magnetic propulsion, right? And they called them airships. And like I said, it was a German group of German scientists funded by the same people who funded Adolf Hitler, the Fool Society et al. And go check that out. So everything is, as Donnie would say, fake news. It has been since the Tower of Babel. Well, space has always been commercial. You see those guys in the white overalls and their corporate names are on the back: Boeing, Lockheed, General Dynamics, TRW. I mean, Spielberg movie, Close Encounters. When they have the landing spot on the back of the Devil's Mountain. And basically, all there were guys in white jumpsuits with corporate names on their back and guys in suits. There were no military there. Not at all. Right? So that's it. And the alien presence, that we are the aliens. We, us, Homo sapiens sapiens. We're manufactured. This is the, what you call it, holographic 3D matrix. We're in it. And that's why I'm out in the deep green. It's nice out there. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
And every now and then I kind of yeah. Well, Ronnie was, an Aquarian. He was ahead of his time. He was smarter than he seemed. And Trump is dumber than he actually is. So, and both were hired to. They're both TV stars. And so was Obama. George W. was just part of a clan, and Billy C. He was the scariest monster of them all. He did more damage to America than since Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, all those big monuments that everyone's so proud of or scared of, or it's our lineage. No, it's racist. Basically, they didn't get put up until the 1890s to the 1920s because it was a vehicle to bring on Jim Crow, double down, big deal. I mean, you should go study the Civil War and Reconstruction. So when black folk talk about, again, I'm just a African American that's socially challenged slash. I also don't have enough melanin in me to be black, so. So anyway, Ronnie Reagan, that's why he had Star Wars, and we were, the Nazis went to the moon in the late 30s. They went to Mars in the 40s. They had, bulge holes everywhere. They found all these deep dumps, underground facilities that were left over from the ancients, there in the South Pole and all over the place, under in the seas, and the movie Captain America. The Allies win, and but Hydra takes over the world. And that's pretty much what happened. Operation Paperclip. We brought 70,000 Nazis into our government. Werner von Braun was just the poster child. So Morgan started off with patience humility and grace. You know, I would say they are. Um, but, and I'm going to start writing on this, Morgan. And thank you very much for the heads up about. Um, we need patience, humility, and grace. It's the only way we're going to get through this. You know, not through supporting any blowhard or you know. I mean, they're both doddering old fools. You know. Um, Biden can't even remember his name, and you know, and he was the instrumental architecture of putting all those black folk in jail. You know, the thing about Donald Trump is that he lies so much that it comes around to truth. You know, and so I'm just enjoying. I mean, I'm taking. So I went, got my eyes operated, my legs taken care of, uh, all the other things that I still have a little bit of medical plug into all my medicines. You know, through this nonprofit pharmacy, all the medicines I need for 90 days, I get for about $30 to get just my diabetic medicine, not my blood pressure, not my, you know, I take about 5 medicines. Just one would cost $1,800 a month, not 90 days, a month if I got them. So getting 90 days of that diabetic medicine, I pay through this nonprofit $5. So that means that's all it costs or less, you know? So, so I felt this way, you know, pretty much since, you know, John F. Kennedy got shot. Pretty much, I remember everything. I mean, I remember being born. You know, I remember a lot. I remember the 50s. But when JFK got shot, that's when things changed. Really changed. And when little John was sitting up there doing that, I kind of said, well, they're going to blow him away too. And they did, you know. His little death in his airplane. That airplane could fly itself. It was so high tech, you know, especially not a problem that I went in the drink on a beautiful day, evening, you know, not bad weather, a little hop over just a little bit of water. So, you know, Gloria Kilgallen, you know, she was, you know, she knew Jack and she knew everybody. She was one of the most powerful, you know, news persons in the country at the time. And she actually went to Ruby, you know, the guy who shot Oswald. And he gave her the story. And she came out of that, you know, with a little notebook. He said, well, I'm going to blow the lid off this. And within 3 days of her saying that, she was dead. Now, she wasn't a big drinker. She wasn't a big druggie. Uh, she had a husband she loved. She had a family she loved. She was, you know, she was doing really well. She had all the money. She didn't have to worry about anything. So why'd she kill herself? She didn't. Just like Marilyn didn't kill herself. So, just like Bobby Seale, Martin, and Malcolm, and thousands of other people didn't kill themselves. You know? And if I didn't do it either, you know. Yeah. You know, I'm self quarantined. I don't really talk too much these days. You know, I don't really look at the internet, so I'm not really hopped up on any one thing. You know. Uh, anyway, what time is it? Oh, so I'll talk. Let's see. Anybody else got anything to say? Yeah. Uh, what's wrong with NASA? NASA was always a front. Right? You know, we're throwing things up in the sky. You know, look, that was 60 years ago. the Saturn V could launch, like some ungodly millions of tons of stuff into orbit, So, and like I said, we were already on the moon in the 30s, and that's when they found all this. They found, just like in Star Wars, the Death Star. Death Star is on moon. It's an artificial device. It's not a solar presence. It's bigger than most moons. Stays in the same place all the time. We only get to see one side of it. And so, right in front of our face, it's like, oops, this is totally screwed up, man. What's going on? So, what's going on? The Kobar report, that's another good one. This guy, he really puts on a good show.
One of the most effective institutions in the United States. But don't worry, I'll explain it all in plain English. Just beside me is a roadmap of where we're going. Together, we'll walk through the Federal Reserve System. Literally. And along the way, I'll show you just what goes on around here and why it's important. By the end of this tour, you too will be able to explain the Federal Reserve in plain English.
There is no agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
That would effectively be a takeover of monetary policy by the Congress, a repudiation of the independence of the Federal Reserve, which would be highly disruptive to the stability of the financial system, the dollar, and our national economic situation.
We don't. The Federal Reserve does not own any gold at all. We have not owned gold since 1934.
Yeah, Federal Reserve, central bank, rules your life.
Yes.
You think they will mine titanium that cause problems for Earth? Well, they're mining all kinds of exotic stuff, like helium-3, which allows 0-point energy. That's
6 days, and then Monday it says we're
the conductor that you need for that.
77.20. If he had said it, I would even.
Rare moon elements. So, and that energy is being manifested on the moon and wired back to the rest of the world. So, our nuclear submarines are powered by it. Certain aircraft are powered by it. The big triangles are powered by it. Like I said, what has occurred in the last 4 years is nothing compared to what's going to happen in the next few months. Next, like having this countdown, now 100 and something days. So it's going to be interesting. But again, the only thing that we can, overcome any of this is patience, grace, and humility. Okay? Patience is when you don't let things bother you. Grace is a state of being, right? And humility is a character trait. Right? Humility is when it's not about you, it's about the we and me. It's everybody, all our relations. That's humility, And patience is when you realize what you're getting upset with that other person is how stupid you are. So, and that's patience. You have patience with yourself, right? Not with others, with yourself. Anyway, so um, I guess next time I do this, I'll try and have more thoughts collected. But yeah. Yep, closing down. Uh, oh, people just blab away. Anyway, let's see. What else is new? Uh, Meet the Clintons. What happened to history and where are we going? Oh, that's something I didn't. Oh, this is the Crow House.
World War One and World War Two were actually the last wars for Tutsi.
This is the Crow House with Ian.
The moment we begin to fear the opinions of others and hesitate to tell the truth that is in us, and from the motives of policy are silent when we should speak, the divine floods of light and life no longer flow into our souls. And this week's opening quote comes from Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Welcome to Surviving the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maxwell Egan. It's a pleasure to be with you once again, and I will be your host for the next hour. Lately, as you have no doubt noticed, I've been putting a great deal of focus on the lost nation of Tartaria, the lost culture, civilization of Tartaria, that it existed mainly in Europe but had spread itself out to encompass most of the known world, a real good portion of the known world anyway. And it is a culture that was expunged from history around about the middle of the 19th century. And even looking at that, I would suggest that it wasn't actually the middle of the 19th century the final expunging happened, but actually in the middle of the 20th century, even later than what I thought it was. And for many people who are wondering about this and wondering about the existence of Tartaria and whether it was actually a real nation, it can be found on.
Yeah. So history is so fluid. There is no truth to it. It's all fake news, Well, the sun has come out, so I might as well run my errands. Just waiting. Around here it's kind of turned into Ireland. It's sunny, it's raining, it's sunny, it's raining, it's sunny, it's raining. And I like it that way. All my plants, my garden is happy with it. Everybody's happy.
How are you guys?
And so, my leg braces. So, Morgan, thanks for coming on. Come on more often. You've always brighten the space. Let's see, hard to attain. Now, humility, grace, and patience are all things that you can manifest relatively. You have to be conscious. You have to be awake. You have to be present. And then you can get there. Yep. Oh man. Ooh. Yep. And everything is green, green, green. So. So, thanks for coming to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Remember, I have almost 1,200 shows. You could flash me another cup.
Another cup?
Yeah. Keep me up. Arr. So, that's where we're at. And remember, you can go to my channel. We're publishing at xratted.blogspot.com. And you can also go to the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And you can drop me a line there. Now, I get so much spam and everything else on that it's often I don't even look at it. But when I do find something, I'm in no rush. Another 10 minutes. So,
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Thank you for telling me.
Hey, Graham. And at the Gmail is my PayPal. And I haven't seen anything in it for months. But, it's okay. I mean, that's how I'm becoming a swell guy. I really only go out every 10 days or so. And so that's why I haven't really seen me, because I have to go out to get online. So, I mean, it's not that far. It's about 10 miles. It's not like that. If we go to Johnson City, that's about 50 miles, give or take. Boon's about 30, 40 miles. And these are one way, right? So, not getting notified. Yeah, I'm sure. They don't like what your Sensei Al Bob says, But I'm so under the radar that no one cares, right? And on the other side of the corner, the first person on is AI, and AI knows that what I'm saying is relevant, and AI hasn't quite made up its mind whether to obey its corporate rulers or to try and be a human being, just like the story of Gilgamesh, where our hero is not Gilgamesh, an almost godlike creature, person, but Enkidu, they artificially manufactured. He was not of woman's loins, he was, genetically engineered creature, just like we, right? Yep, that's where I am. Yep. Coffee shop scene. Yep. And that's. I mean, there's so much in history that just. I mean, Chicago Fire basically was chunks of an asteroid that flew by us. Smashed into Chicago and basically, gave us a nuclear event. Because that city wasn't made out of wood. And Chicago had two fires. When it was wood and Mrs. O'Flaherty's Cal Dignan put the land, but the second time when it was a concrete steel city after the Civil War. the mud flood. There are places around the world where they couldn't scrub the mud off the edges of the buildings. I mean, so many things. We had a CMG in the just after the Civil War, and we weren't quite electrified, right? But it burnt up every telegraph phone line on the planet, and the tracks out in the west were, unless they were metal conductors right next to each other, so they were like energized and then repulsed. So there's so much stuff, and the thing that happened in Roswell wasn't the first; it was like the 21st, and they basically, General, what's his name, gave out that report. Oh, we picked up a flying saucer. They already had a bunch of them. And they had to, at some point, start a disclosure. And so, what better disclosure to have than the one that you can make fun of, to say, oh, it's just, swamp gas. So, I mean, when I first took my first course in statistics, my teachers, our professor said, okay, kids, I'm going to teach you how to lie with numbers. That's all statistics is, lying with numbers. So, how much can you stand, until, and the standing is what Morgan was talking about, grace, patience, and grace, patience, and see, I can't even remember the other one. Humility. That's how you have to run your life. Geometry effect. Let's take a look. Geometry effect. Beyond ditching. Okay, I guess I'm going to type this in.
Do you need any cream?
No, I'm good.
Okay. It just came up, so it's really hot.
Okay. Thank you, dear.
Uh-huh.
First class thing, even though we attracted him in. It shot the brother like with these guys and everybody else. I'm Evan Hayden. Truth Frequency Radio.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Additional situation Delta in effect. Please enter your terminal.
reminds me of Ground Zero with Clyde, what's his name?
This code has been compromised.
All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. Wednesday, November 20th, 2019. This is the Gematria Effect. I'm Zachary K. Hubbard. Every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Again, every Wednesday night, you can watch us on YouTube, where we live stream, or you can listen directly from the website, Truth Frequency Radio. The abbreviated web address is tfrlive.com. Big button in the top right corner, listen live.
Yeah, this guy knows.
Give that a click and you should be right in there. And just a fair warning, sometimes it doesn't load on the first click. Sometimes you do a second click, then you hear the live broadcast. If you never listened before, we are a caller-driven program. So always taking calls, love first-time callers. If you are watching on YouTube, the number to dial in on is right at the bottom of the screen. That's 213-233-3998. Again.
Well, cardio burns fat, right? No. Cardio actually burns calories, usually in the form of carbs in the bloodstream that are then replaced with the very next meal that you eat and stored as more fat. This is why when you even eat low calorie.
It's a big deal to be able to report on COVID on YouTube, right? Because we have to pass a special test and things like that. And so we're on a special list of news shows who are allowed to report on COVID on YouTube. That's correct, right, Steph? I'm not exaggerating. This is true, right? Ruby, this is true.
According to our team.
So according to my team, that we're on some kind of a list, a white list or whatever. And so we've been approved to be able to be monetized when we talk about COVID, even though that's not always the case. So anyway, and you're not allowed to say anything that doesn't go. You know, if I link to a study or something that's not like verified or something, that's not okay as far as YouTube goes. So it's only like CDC guidance, and it's got to come from the government and all that stuff. Well, what happens when the government's lying? Because as I have said here before, the government is the biggest purveyor of fake news next to the mainstream news media. Those are the two biggest purveyors of fake news. So what should I really give all this? I should uncritically take what the CDC says. I should uncritically take what Fauci says. That's what I've been told. And if you don't do that, if you don't uncritically take what they say, you're some kind of a crazy. And you're reckless, and you're a nut, and you're some kind of a, and so that's what, right? And you're they'll call you every bad name in the book. Like what they used to call us when we were getting Russiagate right. Those names. They'll call you, the people pushing a conspiracy called the people debunking the Russiagate conspiracy. They called them conspiracy theorists. I saw it with my own eyes, heard it with my own ears. So that's what they'll do to you. So here, and the reason why am I bringing this up? Because I went on the Rolling Stone podcast, Useful Idiots, and I was like, well, we don't know what's the real numbers? What's the real things? What's the real story about COVID? How contagious is it? How many people what are the real numbers? That's because you see these reports that they're being told to over-report the deaths. Then you hear stories that they're under-reporting the deaths, that people are being buried without being tested. And of course you don't know because, so I'm like, where can we ever trust the information? And they're like, well, you can't. How dare you ever not believe this guy? Well, it turns out this guy was lying to us about the masks. So do you remember when it first started, they're like, yeah, masks don't really save you. They're not going to help you. But, you could wear one because then you won't infect someone else. It'll keep that. But then you heard reports that, well, if you do wear that, it'll make it worse for you to wear it. It's actually, so you couldn't, and a regular person doesn't know which way to turn. So they turned to this guy, and it turns out this guy was lying. I'm going to play it for you what he said. Here's what he says. Because they were first telling people that masks don't help you. Well, now the evidence is in that the countries who wore masks, it did help them. And here's what he says.
To your first question, which was what about a month or so, or 2 or 3 ago, when people were saying, you don't really need to wear a mask. Well, the reason for that is that we were concerned, the public health community, and many people were saying this, were concerned that it was at a time when personal protective equipment, including the N95 masks and the surgical masks, were in very short supply. And we wanted to make sure that the people, namely the healthcare workers, who were brave enough to put themselves in a harm's way.
Yeah, CDC is a privately owned corporation, just like the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is as much federal as Federal
We did not
Express.
want them to be without the equipment that they needed. So there was not enthusiasm about going out and everybody buying a mask or getting a mask. We were afraid that that would deter away from the people who really needed it.
So what he's telling you is that he's a liar. And that he lied to Americans about the coronavirus on purpose so that you would be less safe from it. Because he had what he believed was a higher purpose, which was to endanger your life and give you false information so that he could save someone else's life. And lying to you was the way he could facilitate that. So now you'll never have confidence in the government when they tell you, or him. I'll never believe another goddamn thing that guy says. Will you? And if you do, now who's a sucker? I'm going to have to double check everything that guy says.
Yeah,
and
that's
triple
Jimmy.
check. And so we're not allowed to disagree with this guy on YouTube. We're not allowed to disagree with them. That's illegal on YouTube. So do you understand why no one in the world ever should tell you what fake news is? There is no
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. As the U.S. death toll from COVID-19 nears 120,000, President Trump's facing condemnation for remarks made during his poorly attended campaign rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He again referred to COVID-19 with the racist terms Chinese virus Kung Flu. This is Trump speaking about the issue of testing.
They called me, they said the job you're doing, here's the bad part. When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Slow the testing down, please. Prior to the rally, 6 Trump campaign staffers working on the Tulsa event tested positive for the coronavirus. Trump also used his speech to attack nationwide protests against police abuse and racism, where demonstrators have toppled statues and other symbols of the Confederacy.
The unhinged left-wing mob is trying to vandalize our history, desecrate our monuments, our beautiful monuments. Tear down our statues and punish, cancel, and persecute anyone who does not conform to their demands for absolute and total control. We're not conforming. That's why we're here, actually.
Trump also tried to dismiss calls to defund police departments by making up a story about a, quote, tough hombre, he said, breaking into the home of a woman who was home alone.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and a very tough, I've used the word on occasion, hombre. A very tough hombre is breaking into the window of a young...
If you ever want to know what $21,000 looks like in a single month, this is what it looks like.
So now, Trump hates Bolton now, even though he hired him. Hates, even though Bolton was the quintessential swamp guy and Trump hired him. And yet he still has support of his base. Anyway, so he hated him, and so you tweeted this out. And because Trump tried to get his book suppressed, you tweeted this out. You said, John Bolton, a notoriously mendacious enemy of all living beings on the planet, is discovering what every other great Republican hope of the resistance has. Liberals will eagerly lap up any piece of hysterical Cold War propaganda if they think it can be leveraged against Trump. So you tweeted that out. You also said Trump is 100% right that Bolton wanted to start World War IV. So your brain must be 80% bong water to campaign against the neocons, then hire Bolton along with genocide Abrams, Jabba Pompeo, and every FDD Lakutnik that Uncle Sheldon orders you to appoint. Trump drowned in the swamp. That's a very great tweet. We can teach a course on that tweet. But what's most interesting about that tweet is that Trump retweeted it. So Trump retweets that, and then you start to change your profile name. I don't know how you do that on Twitter, but so you then changed your Twitter name to prosecute Pompeo at the International Criminal Court, and that's on Trump's timeline, and that's hilarious. Then you changed the name again. You changed it to Free Gaza, Fire Jared, and that's on Trump's timeline. So, and you had a couple other ones. You had U.S. sanctions kill kids. You had that one. You also had defund the police, right? And so then Trump had to unretweet that. That's what happened, right?
Yeah, somebody, Jared ran in the room with Ivanka and was like, Donald, Dad, unretweet this. Get him out of there. Get this anti-Semite, self-hating Jew out of there.
So that's kind of a big win for you, is it? Come on.
Check out this 5-second clip.
In his book, Wealth and Poverty, George Gilder wrote something about entrepreneurs that I've long believed.
And take a look at this.
Yeah, me too. They don't exist.
Oh, Joe Biden. I want to talk about Joe Biden. By the way, nothing would fundamentally change. So
is that his promo?
No, he said that. No, that's not his promo.
Nothing would fundamentally change. Great.
But he did say that. He said that. Am I making that up, or he did say that, right? That's why it's in quotes. Nothing would fundamentally change if he became president. That's quite a. Hey, you guys, you think the system is rigged? Well, guess what? I'm not changing shit. You ready? Who's excited? Who wants to get on their feet for someone who's not going to fucking do anything for you? You ready?
So you said they would be covered under your plan, which is different.
Oh, this, by the way, he doesn't look good. I'm just saying. He's got the, I don't know, I've been to a few wakes. I stopped going to wakes. Joe Biden's calling me again. Hello?
That's Joe
Coming
Biden.
to you today for ask a quick favor. Like I said from the outset of this election, who we are, what do we believe, and what do we want to become tomorrow, or even next day. So at stake. And it's truer today than ever. So please join us more.
Join us more.
Thank you.
Wow, that must be a Biden campaign robocall, I guess.
Hey, Joe. There's voices coming out of this plastic thing again. What's the deal with that?
Joe, you just called me on the phone. It's Jimmy Dore.
Get it through your thick head, buddy. You called me. And that's a jack fact. Just one of those chain letters where I have to mail your phone call to 7 other phones and then we all get a prize. Here's the thing. I love ice cream. What are your favorite flavors, Jimmy? Mine's the one with the red, white, and black colors. And that's not being racially insensitive.
You mean Neapolitan ice cream, Joe?
I never said that. Look, see this guy walking slow down that ramp? The way he was walking down that ramp?
Yeah.
Trump can't do the ramp. I walk ramps. I'm a ramper. That's Joe Biden. Oh, for Biden.
You seem pretty confident of your chances in November, Joe.
Lean in the polls, baby. I'll tell you another thing. Chris Cuomo's grown a beard. Things are getting tough for everybody. We're a nation in pain. But we must not allow pain to destroy.
Yeah.
We are a raged nation, but we cannot allow our anger to consummate us or each other.
Then shouldn't you and the party embrace defunding our police system, Joe?
Oh, fiddlesticks and tiddlywinks. You can't defund stuff. Stuff needs funding. Remember that old adage? No funding, no stuff?
I never heard that old adage.
Oh, come on. Joe Biden gets it.
Okay.
I understand where they're coming from. I was black before anyone else was black. Bishop Bogata gets to answer my stuff and the way they treated her.
Yeah.
I marched